Welcome to America's Cricket Show, Big Innings. I'm Aaman Patel, back at it here on another Wednesday night, and there's so much to go ahead and talk about. I'm joined by Dane, Piedt, and Nate Hayes as always, and we're very glad to bring Dane back into the building after being in Houston. Dane, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, good. How are you guys?
Missed
you guys, to be honest. Didn't miss you as much as my family, but yeah, missed you guys. Good to be back. Well done.
Well, we
had in the fort.
We had fun, but you seem to have a lot of fun down in Houston as well. You know, taking all those wickets.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. The conditions were favorable early on. We had a good roster, to be honest. Keenal Lewis, Shandabal Hemraj, Obus, Khosi, and then Najaf Shah, Corey Anderson. So probably one of the best balanced teams I've played in one of these opens, to be honest. But the conditions were desirable at the back end of the competition, to be honest with you.
Right.
But we pulled through, played in the finals, real fun.
Yeah, it always seems to be fun out there in Houston, all these opens, but there's a lot of fun going on in the cricketing world, and we have a new segment that we're starting. You know, every big innings needs to start with, you know, just getting your eye in. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our eye in here with some cricketing news around the world, and we'll start with the women's we'll start with the women's Ashes. Only one test for the women, and Australia did win it. It was good fun to see some of the things, and we love our theme song so much that we're just going to play it over everything, it seems.
Big B.
But along with the Women's Ashes, we had the second test of the Ashes start this morning as well. Dane, first thing you said to us as you came in, the England side didn't really bowl that well.
I said it in a different way. But yeah, Test cricket's really hard. It's become more of a sideshow event with the week build-up. With players having a lot to say. Zach Crawley saying they're going to win by 150 runs. And then unfortunately the bowlers let that down in I think favourable conditions. Yes, the pitch looked kind of slow. It will speed up as the test match goes on. And a couple of drop chances early, balls dropping short. Jimmy Anderson looking a lot better than the first test match. But test cricket's hard, boys, and Australia really showed what they're all about. Steve Smith doesn't average close to 60 for nothing. Travis Head is playing head ball at the moment. He's fighting fire with fire. And there was a funny stat that came on. He averages over, I think, 60 with a short ball in Test cricket, but yet they keep going back there with a bowling attack that doesn't really bowl consistently quick.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a tough day, especially when you're over 350 runs behind in the test match. So yeah, it's going to be exciting couple of days. The weather looks gloomy for the next 4 days, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, this Australian side is pretty good right now, obviously.
Number one in the world.
Yeah.
Number one in the world. They're coming right off the World Test Championship.
Yeah.
So very formidable for England, and you have to be really good to overcome England at home, even when England is kind of mediocre or spinning wheels. But England has won the majority of their tests over the last 18 months or so. They've won the vast majority.
Yeah, it's with the style of cricket they've played, and I know the players and the coaching staff have not really called it baseball, but it's a media thing that they've tried to play. I was pretty impressed with the way they approached the first test match. It's 2023, the conservative nature's out the window now,
right.
So they caught a lot of flack for declaring on day one, but at the end of the day, if it wasn't for their declaration, it wouldn't have been a close cricket game. Yeah. So I mean, the game of Test cricket is really moving forward. But today was a proper test match, a test day by Australia, really fighting fire with fire and getting way ahead of the game.
And one of my favorite things about the Ashes or any test series is that it's multiple tests.
Yeah.
And so there's ebbs and flows. There's things to talk about in between the tests to ramp you up, kind of like in the NFL where you play and then you have a whole week to talk about it. So when you have this week break, there's a lot to talk about.
Yep.
Of course, they had the London series, the baseball, MLB played there, and we got to see a couple of cricketers throwing out the first pitch, so there was all this hype. But unfortunately to me, I would love to see the women's Ashes go to more than just one game, because then there's nothing to talk about anymore.
Sure.
And it loses all of the momentum it could get.
For sure. And I mean, my country of birth, South Africa, the women been crying out for a lot more test matches. They play like one or two maybe every 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good cricketers that people want to see playing, and that test match was exciting too. England looked ahead of the game, then Australia looked ahead of the game, then England looked like they were fighting back, and then Australia getting over the line in the end. So I mean, that was a good watch, and for sure. I mean, a 3-match test series is definitely up for discussion, but I mean, they work their Ashes point system completely different to the men. So it's all 3 formats, which I find pretty cool at the end of the day. So whoever plays consistently over the 3 formats will win the Ashes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about, kind of new things in cricket, different things in cricket. Well, the Toronto Blue Jays trying something new with cricket as they partner with Cricket Canada, and they get a cool jersey. 15,000 people, the first 15,000 people to come into a Toronto Blue Jays stadium, they get themselves a free cricket-style jersey with the Toronto Blue Jays look. Nate, talk to me about this.
This is a great initiative. This is an awesome promotion that Cricket Canada has worked out. I got to tip my hat to them. Basically, Canada only has one Major League Baseball team. The entirety of Canada supports the Toronto Blue Jays. You go anywhere in Canada, and after the morning after a game, they're on the front page of the sports page of the paper. And so getting Canadian cricket in front of the eyes of that many people, you had Chris Gale come out, throw out the first pitch, hit some batting practice, and to get cricket in front of that many people in Canada, I mean, you can't reproduce this in the USA. There's 31 Major League Baseball teams in the USA, and you can't really reproduce. Which team are you going to target? Obviously the Yankees.
Yeah, that'd be the one.
But you still can't. You can't reproduce the success that this particular promotion had in terms of getting cricket in front of people's eyes in a multicultural city like Toronto, where you already have a lot of cricket being played. And we just talked about minor league last week. We just talked about minor leagues expanding into Toronto, probably laying a platform for Major League to expand into Toronto. So I think this was a great move by them, and I want to get one of those shirts for sure.
No, those shirts, they look awesome. And again, we'll see what continues to happen in those partnerships. And, speaking of something we were really excited to happen here in the States, just got called off. The FairBreak USA was called off for this season. There should be one next year back here in the USA. But FairBreak, for those of you who don't know, they invite all the best women's cricketers from around the world to compete in a multinational tournament. It's been a lot of fun. Our very own Geeta Kokodali, who's based here in North Carolina, she's been playing over there
in North Carolina.
There you go. From Dane Piedt himself, he's claimed it.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, Geeta's fantastic, and it's so much fun watching her play. Obviously the spring version of the FairBreak is in Hong Kong.
Yep.
So yeah, it's fun to watch her play over there. Of course, the middle of the night here, all weird hours and stuff. But
one thing, you definitely awake watching that.
Yeah,
you're finding a way to watch that.
yeah. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm going to be awake watching that. And so we had Sindhu Sriharsha's team win the championship in the last season. It's supposed to be 2 seasons a year, one in our kind of early fall and one in our spring, and they were supposed to be held in Houston or Dallas, and then it got canceled basically until 2024.
Yep.
And man, I really hope it comes back strong. And
yeah, it's a big pity.
Where should they play this, guys? Do you have any idea where they should which venue they should choose for the FairBreak?
The lady on screen.
Yeah,
somewhere close to where she lives.
That's right. Church Street Park.
I hope there's a cricket ground near her.
I hope so too.
Well, plus we got all these great universities with very good sports teams. UNC won a field hockey championship this year.
There you go.
Field hockey, you can
don't forget about women's tennis. Throw it in there, women's tennis.
Women's tennis, yeah. So
and the basketball team.
Continue, Nate. Continue on your point.
So there's a lot of good women athletes in North Carolina that are in college that would love to probably come and watch something like this, be exposed to something like this. You can
in the TCL too.
TCL,
players, yeah.
So, tons of great up and coming cricketers in TCL, and this generation currently is being inspired by people like Geeta. Your sister herself was inspired by people like her.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we would love to see that come to pass at Church Street Park, done the right way.
Done the right way, with some crowds in there as well. But speaking of being inspired, most inspirational man in the room, Nate Hayes, is in some videos that will be coming out over the next couple of weeks. The Ball and Play League from Jomboy Media. Dane, you and I were supposed to be there. Both of us weren't able to get up there, but
I wasn't. My sister got married in Arizona that weekend. Yeah,
that sounds like a lot more fun than an ear infection that I had.
Your sister's killing our brand.
Is it? My apologies, guys.
But Nate's up there in the pink shirt, umpiring those games. And I heard
awful umpire.
But Darren Sammy said he did a good job.
Oh.
Well, we haven't seen all the games yet. I'll just say that. We haven't seen all the games yet. But yeah, the first 2 games, when Darren Sammy said, Great call by umpire Nate.
Nice.
Top 5
I'll
moment.
tell
The
you.
West Indies coach, white ball coach.
You start having delusions of grandeur.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
I would love to have seen how the pink pops off the orange beard, Nate.
It kind of blends. It doesn't really pop. But it blends in. But yeah, check out the Ball and Play League, Jomboy Media, on the Jomboy Warehouse channel. It's ongoing. Last night was the second game.
Yep.
Aman's watched the games. They're exciting.
They are. Obis actually got hit right in the nuts, actually.
Oh, is it?
So and then after that, he kept flinching every time the ball came back to him. So
That
would make me flinch for sure.
A bit of it. Looks a lot of fun.
The sequence was someone hit a 6 off of him, then he hit him right in the nads, and then he hit, and then there was a ground ball basically hit right past him, a bouncer.
Oh,
a two-hopper basically hit right past him, and you could see him turn around, and he just kind of gave this gesture. It was hilarious. But yeah, the whole thing is excellent. Jomboy's teaching people cricket rules using baseball skills, and that's reaching into tens of thousands of mainstream American homes. And I think good things will come out of that partnership. Of course, 6 Major League cricketers are involved in this.
Yep. This
is something that we should all be interested in. And people are leaving nothing but fantastic comments.
Yeah,
and
the comments have been great.
And he's got retention. People who tune into this, they watch the whole game. It's ridiculous how good his retention is. So it's a great vehicle for explaining cricket rules to folks that don't know them.
Yeah, absolutely. But now that we're warm, guys, we'll start jumping into some of our main topics. Our eyes in. We're seeing the ball. It looks like a football right now, the way we're in right now. We'll start with the USA U19 National Championships. They're being held in California. Remember back in 2019 they held them in Houston, Texas, but now out in California. And we've had some really good performers. And we'll start out with the batters, the top 5 batters of the tournament so far. We've seen 2 centuries, one hit by Rishi Ramesh, who has 228 runs on the tournament. Then we have Utkarsh Srivastava, a local here. Dane, you've worked a lot with him, with 159. Bhavya Mehta, he's only had 2 innings and he scored 146 runs, including a century today.
Family of Samir Mehta?
I'm not sure what the family is, but
he's in St. Louis.
He's in St. Louis, along with Parth Patel, who's at 145, and Siddharth Kappa up there in the New Jersey area, the man who had 12 centuries in 12 innings in the MILC Junior Championship over there. So he's come up at 140. So some really good guys there in the top 5.
Yeah, especially we had Utkarsh on the minor league draft show.
Yeah.
He joined us. He's a future star of the Morrisville Raptors someday.
Yeah.
And not probably too far in the future.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, he is a talent. You can see his skill set is brought up in India, in inverted commas. He does a lot of things that a lot of the local American-born kids don't quite do. And he's really a talent to watch out for. He's really strong for his age. I know he's been working out with Sanjay Stanley. And you can see the reward. I remember getting a text message after one of our TCL sessions, and he said, "Coach, I'm not hitting the ball well." And I told him that the older you get, cricket's going to start, it's going to be played in your head, and you need to keep your head clear and just rely on your ability and your talent. So yeah, he's definitely one for the future. I'm a really big fan of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's talk about how some of these guys are already in minor league cricket.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For sure.
Parth Patel, Rishi Ramesh, Kappa was picked up.
It was just picked up. Bhavya Mehta, also part of the St. Louis Americans. So you got
that's the whole idea, around the minor league and giving guys opportunities. And I know you mentioned the young St. Louis boy, and I know a guy like Justin Dill will really be a fan of young cricketers coming through, and just some sort of ability, and the guys that really want to do something will have the proper guidance. A guy like Fransisco Adams, a South African guys come in there, and there's a lot of guys that can help him grow from strength to strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And from the top 5 batters, we'll move to the top 5 bowlers of the tournament so far. We'll start with Arya Garg, the left-arm seamer, who was picked up by actually the New Jersey Somerset Cavaliers. So there you go, get an opportunity to learn from Najaf Shah. He's got 6 wickets.
Nice.
Ronak Rao, 6 wickets in just 2 innings for him. Arya Batra, I know you know a lot about him. He played in the D.C. area in just 2 innings, 6 wickets for him as well. Parth Patel with 5. And so there you go with bat and ball for Parth. And then Dhruv Palwar, a left-arm orthodox. You don't get a lot of those in the USA.
No, you don't. It's about 7.8 million.
And he's got 5 wickets to his name as well.
Yeah, I mean, Aryan Bhatta, I followed the Mid-Atlantic game because they played against the boys from the South, and he really made inroads early on. I think he had like the first 4 out of 5 bowls early on, and the batting lineup were just crippled by that exploits. I made a comment to one of the guys that I do know out in the DC area. We were speaking about him, and I said he's a perfect bowler for that age group right now because he hits a length consistently. And unfortunately, youth cricket, they don't have the resilience and the mindset to push through a tough time and get 30 or 65 balls and then you cash in at the end. They sort of hit themselves out of trouble, and that's why he's been successful with the ball. He's a real big talent. Looks to hit a good length, top of the stumps, which I know the conditions in San Francisco or in California will favor him.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think Dhruv Barwar is another guy who, again, you have a left arm off spinner, so there's plenty of these in the competition. Antrai, who's from here, too, Josh Saripala down in Houston, so all those guys kind of fighting for one role.
For sure.
Right. And again, I've really liked Arya Garg and what I've seen from him over the last couple of years. The left arm seam can move it in both directions, and he's only going to get better, right, and quicker. So I think that's really exciting to get someone who can move it at such a young age. I think that's really exciting for the USA.
Yeah, and we've seen some games with a lot of runs scored. Right now the table has Mid-Atlantic in the top on one side and Southwest Zone in the other.
Defending champions, right?
Yes, Mid-Atlantic. Yes, they did. And interestingly, the West Zone's 1 and 2. And there's a lot of buzz usually about the West Zone. There was a lot of talk about why the West Zone used to be last time was two different teams. Now it's one team, and everyone thought that was a mistake. But they're 1 and 2.
Right.
And we don't have the Colts this year. We don't have a team that's made up of players who just missed out on their zone. So it's interesting. It's there was a lot more fanfare around the last.
Absolutely.
The last rendition of this in 2021, but this one looks pretty fun as well.
That's what I mean. The 2021 class was spoken about highly.
Very much.
They were the ones that I felt still up until today were hard done by not to get to the World Cup.
Terrible.
And they would have beaten anyone that's in their way just with the makeup of them. But there was a lot of noise made about this. But there's a lot of good cricketers that I've seen.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting at home just flicking through the YouTube streaming and trying to see some of these games and seeing some of the young talent that's on the radar of minor league teams and things like that. So I mean, it's really good that an under-19 championship is played, and it's really important for the next generation of cricket in the US.
Yeah, and some of the names that kind of floating around minor league, Anirudh Emmanuel, he's playing here. Adi Gupta's playing here. Rishi Pandey, Teendar Subramanian. So there's a lot of good. Adam Khan,
Aryan Bhatta,
Aran Chenshu from Atlanta as well. So plenty of guys floating around minor league.
And Adam Khan last time was on a team with 3 leg spin bowlers, and he didn't get many chances. Now he's getting he's getting a much bigger quota, and he's getting a chance to show what he's capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so speaking how this can kind of be a feeder system to minor league, let's talk about major league because we have some of the bigger news to drop from the San Francisco Unicorns. They made the biggest splash since we last spoke last Wednesday by adding 2 Pakistan national team players in Haris Rauf and Shadab Khan. This really adds a lot to their squad. Haris Rauf is great, and Shadab Khan, again, leg spin always going to be valued in a T20 competition. But again, I want to talk about Haris Rauf. You have Andrik Nokia already bowling 150, and now you add him. I think those 2 are competing for the fastest delivery of the tournament easily. Yeah,
I know. There's a couple of batsmen.
Fergie too.
Yeah, there's a couple of batsmen that's shaking in their boots now, domestic batters, because he's known for bowling a sand shoe crusher, known as a Yorker, also known as a Yorker.
Right.
So he's floating around. He can bowl rockets with a new ball. The toughest thing about him is that he angles the ball in. And, if you ask a couple of batsmen at the top of the order, the ball angling in is not fun to face, because it's always at you. It's creating havoc. He bowls well at the death. We've seen him come to life and burst onto the scene in the Big Bash. We were like, who's this guy bowling 150?
Right.
He's up there. You mentioned Anna, Norkia, and Lockie Ferguson too. So there's a lot of. This is a big signing for them. Pace in the T20. If you have pace in your team, that definitely adds a lot more character to the makeup.
Oh, no doubt. And we'd like to thank, by the way, it's called Cricket on Instagram for the graphics that they really kindly let us use. Yeah,
they're amazing. Yeah.
They're great.
Great group of guys. They're going to be around a while. It's nice to have a friendship with folks like that.
It makes our life so much easier.
Makes things easier.
But, Dane, you weren't here last time. Nate and I made probable 11 for the Texas Super Kings. So we did the same thing here, and we're going to let you basically just judge them. And I have a good feeling that you're going to be brutally honest,
I'm honest
on
man.
both of us.
You
So
know I'm honest.
we're going to start off with Nate's 11 here.
Oh, we're starting with mine.
Absolutely, we're going to start with
we're
yours.
going to put our best foot forward.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
Love the confidence, man. I love the confidence.
And Finch, Van Allen, David White, interesting. Corey Anderson, Marcus Stoinis, the gender Matthew Wade. Well, I mean, in my opinion, if you look at the makeups of the team, I would probably leave David White out of my team, and put Aaman Patel in.
I was thinking. So
yeah.
here's my thought process.
Okay.
David White went higher in the draft, so
Okay.
you have to think that means they value him a little bit more.
Okay.
But obviously, once you get into a camp,
Yeah.
you're going to decide based on that.
Yes.
And we both know Smith's a very good
Yes.
cricketer. David White's a very good cricketer.
Yes.
They can both bat in this three
Yes.
role. But so my thinking is it's either going to be David White or Smith at that position.
In my opinion, sorry to
No, that's fine.
To Matthew Wade will not bat as low as that. So Matthew Wade will probably be
6.
batting in the top 3.
Oh, in the top 3.
I would
okay.
agree with that.
Yeah.
as
He
well.
would go in the top 3.
we're talking about
So
that.
so Matthew Wade will fill in there. So David would automatically just fall out. In my opinion, David has to open the batting. So that's why
Okay.
Matthew Wade as the gloves too. So he'll go
Yeah.
at 3.
Yeah.
Corey Anderson will probably drop down. Marcus Stoinis will go to 4. Tejinder Singh and Corey Anderson, they will be the left-right combination of guys finishing the innings for them. And then you get into, as well as Shadab Khan, where he will fill in that role. I like the inclusion of Carmine Leroux, the left-arm seamer, he can
Right.
swing the ball
Gotta
back.
get the lefty in there.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously the experience of Liam Plunkett and Harris Rauf, they add a different dimension to the bowling attack.
Right.
Maybe with Shadab Khan, one spinner. We don't know how the surface is going to play.
I have
Tejinder
Singh in there as a half a spinner basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
You know what I mean.
So obviously the conditions,
Right.
I've seen all over social media that the guys have been to Grand Prairie.
Sure.
So we don't know how the surface is going to be. It looks kind of thatchy, so the ball just
Right.
might grip in that grass. You never know. So that brings in Chaitanya Bishnoi or Sanjay Krishnamurti if they want to go with youth.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it on paper now, it's not a bad team, but I think that just with position changes,
Right. Batting lineup changes.
batting lineup
Yeah.
changes, and maybe you can't put in a Brody Couch for David White because
Sure. The
roles
yeah,
some batting.
the roles
Yeah,
are completely different.
Yeah, roles are different.
So
you have
that's
so many bowling options
exactly.
right now. as it
Yeah,
is.
so that's why a Bishnoi would come into the fray. He's probably not going to be used as a batting option.
More for the left arm.
More for the left arm, but I've seen his stats. He hasn't bowled much in T20 cricket. So
Sure, yeah. That's what I looked at too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that becomes a bit of a dilemma for their selection. But yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting. Where they go if they feel like a new spinner.
Right.
Because they're not playing the first game, so everyone's going to be sitting down and saying,
Watching
maybe we
what's
need
happening.
we need to pick 2, maybe we need to pick 3 spinners.
It
Because then the likes of Case Ahmed comes into
Sure.
the fray again.
Exactly.
You know? Van Allen might miss out for him, or something like that. Where someone can go at the top of the order, a domestic player like David White or Aaman Patel, in my opinion.
If Finn Allen's left out, you can also put Matthew Wade. Like you said,
There we go.
you've already got
There we
Matthew
go.
Wade at number 3.
Yeah.
I have him at 7 here. I
Yeah.
probably would have put him at 6, thinking about it some more. But or in the top, But I like Corey at number 4. He's batted a lot there. Myself, he's batted a lot there for New Zealand.
Yes.
So I liked him in that position, and I also don't really think he's going to bowl. If he does, I don't think he'll bowl a lot. I don't think he'll be
with this selection, he won't bowl much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
With
And
if Bishnoi plays, Corey will probably have to bowl 1 or 2 overs.
Right. Sure.
Dependent on how the game
goes,
game flows.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So give it a grade, right? A to F. You know this guy. You can put pluses, minus if you wanted to, but if you had to give it a grade,
You want to wait until you see his?
Yeah.
Okay,
So that
let's
if
do
you
that.
give me
All
a
right,
C, you don't
here we
have to
go.
give him a D.
There you
You
go.
know what I mean?
Okay, all right, Dave. Let's see it. Let's see it. Here's my 11.
Well done, Nate. Not bad.
So here's the 11 I got.
Okay.
And basically, I think for me it was Case Ahmed coming in, Matthew Wade comes
Interesting.
out.
You've gone with. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Interesting. You've gone with Van Allen to keep wicket. I personally, this is your team, but I personally would have left Van Allen out and put Matthew Wade at the top to keep wicket because the right left-hand combination. Again, the position of David White, you don't know what they're going to go with at 3. Tajinder Singh, also known to open the batting too.
Yep.
So if you take a guy like Tajinder Singh to 3, David White out, put Bishnoi in, maybe. Yeah, that's also an option. But I don't think it's bad, I don't think Marcus Stoinis will bat as low as that. As you can see around the world, he doesn't bowl as much anymore.
Yeah.
So his batting has become more important to his skill set. So he will probably slide up to a position of number 4,
okay.
where he can sort of, bat the majority of the overs, but play aggressively, if that makes any sense,
Yeah.
I honestly do like Corey to bat at number 5. I think that's the best position for him to bat, because if you put Matthew Wade in,
Right.
It leaves a lot of left-handers for the likes of Dane, Piedt to bowl at. No, but I think this is pretty good. I like the inclusion of Brody Couch, but again, the left arm.
Yeah. There's
the
only
left arm
one
option.
left-handed bat. Yep.
The left arm option of Carmine Leroux, I'll probably give that to Nate, because he does add a bit of variation to the lineup. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I like the aggressive nature you've gone with Finch and Finn Allen. Yeah, it's honestly not a bad team. The funny thing is, you guys have left out 3 of the same. The domestic players. It's just Carmine that's in. And Matthew Wade for, who was it? Case Ahmed. I see you made a change, and that can also work, because if you look at the batting of Shadab Khan coming in at 7, that should be enough batting to handle
he's a pretty good hitter.
He's pretty good.
To handle a T20 game. So if you have the top 7 batters, they should be scoring 160.
Sure.
In an ideal world.
And in either team, Liam at 9 is a good option.
It's a good option too. And then that brings in another option of Case Ahmed, who's a completely different bowler to Shadab Khan.
But
they bowl the same thing.
Sure.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So
Gotcha.
I've always liked the inclusion of 2 spinners.
Got it.
That's why Aaman will get a B+ and you get a B-.
Let's go, Nate. Come on, man. Nate, you talk all this, all that, but no, I think 2.
Just seeing the conditions on IG last night, I think that's why.
Got it.
With 2 spinners, it's going to be difficult. If you ask a Oba spinner, for example, yes, a good friend of mine, but if you ask him, would you want to face out of like a Case Ahmed or a who's the other one that you had in someone in, Nate?
Let me bring it up.
A left arm, I think it was Carmine or someone.
Yeah.
You'd probably go Carmine over Case Ahmed, because he brings that X factor where he could be like, oh no, I really need to watch this guy. And that's the exciting part of it. Domestic players are going to put their skill sets up against good quality bowling, and other way around. The bowlers are going to be put up against good batters. But I mean, that batting lineup, it can be potent. If the conditions allow. I remember the first episode where I said a team like Seattle, they'll scrap around, and this looks like a team that can do that.
Right. Yeah, I think the team looks good. I think I like the bowling options that they have, even in both teams, really. But ultimately, I don't know. I don't think you're going to have a combination here where you're not going to have, as a captain, a lot of options bowling.
That's the makeup of the amount of pros compared to the amount of domestic players, because that gives you an opportunity to sign 2 or even 3 out-and-out fast bowlers in your team. As international players, where you have a decent amount of local batsmen, where you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to put a lot of my emphasis in our bowling. I'm speaking from a freedom point of view, where they got a lot of emphasis on the bowling, and you got a lot of domestic batsmen. So that is the way that people were drafting in the setup. And so I mean, it's going to be interesting. Again, we can sit on the side and say this is going to be the team. And completely honest,
we don't know.
Chaitanya Bishnoi is going to go because he was drafted at number 4 or 3, wherever he was.
They're
going to be like, oh no, we have to play him because we're paying him a ton of money, so we have to put him in. Or a guy like Aaman Patel gets an opportunity at number 3 and scores 60 or 40 balls. He's playing for the rest of the competition, and that's the way it works.
And we talked about this before. The 3 of us have talked about the fact that Smith went down where he did in the draft had more to do with the fact that he's a wicketkeeper than anything else. And so when you have in minor league cricket, in that draft, you had several really good wicket-keeping options, and a couple of teams are bringing their own wicket-keepers. That means a very good wicket-keepers dropping down in the draft.
Sure.
So the fact that Smith was drafted, I think, sixth or seventh round, seventh round, I think.
Seventh round.
It's almost immaterial.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because we all know he's very good. He's a very good cricketer.
No, we know that for sure.
For sure.
And he can have one of those games if the pitch plays well, under lights, ball sliding on.
Yeah.
Aaman Patel comes in the second over. He bats 4 overs of the power play, puts the team under pressure. He plays spin really well. Man, he loves batting. So it's going to be one of those type of things. Even David White, might just whack a few, and it's all of a sudden you're on the back foot. So yeah, it's opportunity. It's how you take this opportunity, because it's not a double round of fiction.
No,
so when you get the
chance.
opportunity, you've got to make sure you take it and put in a solid performance. If you're a bowler, you want to go for 24 runs. You don't even want to take wickets. You just want to do your job, get it out the way. As a batsman, you want to bat at a decent strike rate, put your team in a good position in order to win the game.
Right.
No, absolutely. And for those watching live with us, you can comment which 11 you'd prefer or who you want in and out.
Don't rub it in just because I, gave you a B+.
No. I want to hear what everyone has to say. And if they probably last time they were talking about how when we talked about the TSK, they're like, how could you leave out Dwayne Bravo from your 11? So there's plenty of different opinions out there, and it'd be interesting to see what everyone has to say down in the comments. But whilst they start to do that, we'll move on to our final topic of the evening, the Cricket World Cup Qualifiers. We move on to the Super 6, but man, that final game of that group stage was unbelievable between Netherlands and the West Indies. What an absolute fire of a finish.
Incredible. 30 runs to start the power play.
Crazy.
I mean, to start the super over, and then taking 2 wickets in the bottom half of it. Just nuts.
It's crazy.
Just getting there to the super over was impressive. And
the wicket on that final delivery to get him there, right? So everything had to go right, and it was
thrilling game.
Thrilling. It was really good. I thought the ebbs and flows were terrific, because I think going into the super over, everyone felt, this is the West Indies have all the momentum going into the super over, and then they just started hitting one boundary after the next, and before you look up, there's 30 runs on the board, and
that's real odd.
That's pressure, man.
And it shows.
Their fielding wasn't great, to be honest. The West Indies, they dropped a lot of catches.
Darren Sammy said it in the
Darren Sammy was quite harsh on them. Not harsh, he was actually telling the truth. They weren't really good, and that's just the unfortunate. And a lot's been said about West Indies cricket. I mean, in the media at the moment. Carl Hooper's come out and said things. Darren Sammy as well has been honest, and he said this is a true reflection of where they're at the moment, So yeah, it was an interesting watch. I mean, 30 runs in a super over it's an incredible effort,
Right.
And it's Logan van der Beek, I think it was.
Yeah.
He ended up getting man of the match.
Yeah, tremendous stuff. I mean, can you imagine having a super over like that where you take 2 wickets and you score 30? First of all, any over where you score 30 runs is going to be your best over your career probably. But that's just amazing. And unfortunately for us as USA fans, we lost a lot of sleep for nothing over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, failed to win a single game. Batting woes against any foe that we faced in the competition. Just collapse after collapse. Never really felt like we were in any real flow, even with the Gudgeon 100, with the Shanja and Gear 100. It just never felt like as a team we had really gotten anywhere. And I remember last week when we were talking about the qualifiers, a bunch of guys were saying, why didn't they pick Shadley Van Skalkovic or Corey Anderson into the squad? Because it would have helped him with that
first
third
week we were talking about that. Remember? And you said, go with the guys that got you there.
And so that was the argument. That was the argument, right? You go with the guys.
Learn. I mean,
absolutely. So you're just saying for continuity's sake, when times get tough, you go with the guys that they know what they're going to do with each other. And then you look at those runouts. You look at the 3 runouts in that final match, or the 3 with the Gudgeon. You played with these guys the entire time. The excuses just aren't there, right, to be had of you haven't batted with these guys. And for Aaron and Gudgeon to have that situation happen twice, it's a little
twice in the week.
It's rough.
Where's the benefit of the continuity now?
That's basically the
guys.
Pressure's
the real thing.
No,
man.
absolutely.
I mean, and I was fortunate enough to make my test debut at that Rare Sports Club. At the cricket ground there, and it's an amazing atmosphere. I remember playing 4
incredible.
days.
Yeah,
I played 4 days, and it was jam-packed every single day of the test match. And the pressure for those guys, just the noise, if you're batting within that noise and you're not used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you normally bat at Prairie View with over the highway that's with the trucks just making a noise or the wind in your face, and now all of a sudden you're batting in Zimbabwe in a World Cup qualifier where there's noise and you're playing against a solid solid team, the home team, who scored over 400 against you, and all of a sudden you up in a battle that you've not used to. And that's proper international cricket, you know. No disrespect to any other format or any other division of cricket, but that is the type of pressures you have to deal with. And I'm speaking from first-hand experience, having played in India. It's brutal, you know, and that you can see has come from pressure. You know, Gajanan just turning his back after making the call for the run and just turning his back on his teammate. It was pretty disappointing to see, but that's what pressure does, you know.
You're right.
Pressure is a privilege, and it just depends how people deal with it, you know. You can turn your back on it or just absorb it and take it in and play and enjoy it, you know, which some of the greatest athletes have done.
Yeah, and I remember you actually talked about this on the first show where you were like, when there's 24 cameras, it's just a different feel, right? It's a different feel, and it was exactly that for the USA. We felt like a fish out of water.
Of course.
That we just weren't used to that kind of environment.
If you walk onto the field and you see Ian Bishop at the toss, you see Ashwell Prince standing there, you see, you know, all these commentators, ex-international cricketers, all of a sudden you feel like, oh no, I've got to, you know, try to do something different where you got there playing a certain way, but all of a sudden it's like if you want to warm up because you're playing in a final, but you've never warmed up before a game, but now all of a sudden it's a final, you want to do all of these things, right? Just do what you've done to get there. And I know, I mean, it's easier said than done. I mean, I'm sitting on a chair in North Carolina talking about it, but it's just about the pressure and absorbing the type of pressure, you know. And I would definitely have loved them to put an upset, you know. People went there hoping for some good results, and unfortunately it didn't go the way. But I can tell you, the boys flying back, sitting on that flight, feeling disappointed, would definitely have taken so much more from this than any form of cricket they've played. The Houston Open, the Unity Cup, the minor league, whatever it is, they've definitely learnt a lot from this.
Well, that's good. And one of the things that irritates me is when you get into this level, you know, which is a qualifier to play into the World Cup, you have all of these, you know, 7th place games and things like that are going to happen from now on. So you've got a team that's been beaten up, they're sick. They've been the whole team's been sick.
The virus that's gone through too.
They're sore. They're down a guy because of the chucking for Kyle. You're banged up and you're being dragged through playing these meaningless games pretty much. And as you said, throughout the World Cup qualifier up until now, there's been lessons to learn even if you fail miserably. There's been lessons to learn. But how do you get up against a team that has to get up for a 7th place game? We've seen in the past when USA in the T20s have been in this situation, they don't have anything left. They seem, you know, in despair, and the other team has a little bit left, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, for sure. And 50 overs is a different beast, man. It's people always say it's a shorter format of the game. It's not Test cricket, but there's the ebbs and flows that go in a 50-over game. It's you know, you need someone to bat through in your top 4, and that it's 100. I mean, Nicholas Pooran scored 170 balls in the one game. Shai Hope too, and these guys average. I mean, Shai Hope averages 50 in 50-over cricket, you know, and that's the type of standard that people are after. Like in the Test game, Joe Root, Steve Smith, all average over 50. That's the standard, you know, and that's what people want to have. And the funny thing is, in 50-over cricket, they don't strike at 70%. They're striking close to 100%, over 90%. You know, and that's the standard that if you want to be a professional or at that level, you've got to unfortunately, get there and find a way to get there. You know, and then they're going to speak about the infrastructure is not like the other place in the world, but you still have the talent to play the game. So you can find a way to get yourself going. And I mean, I find a way to keep my game up to scratch, and that's unfortunately is just part of the situation, you know. But like I said, I mean, I would have loved these guys having been in and around them to do well, you know. Of course, guys like Stephen Taylor unfortunately didn't do well, and this is just the way the game goes, you know. All of us have been there. It's a cruel game. It's honestly, it's a fun game. But it's the worst game on the planet.
Well, one of the problems that USA kind of shares with West Indies is the geography of the USA. The hubs of cricket in USA are very far spread apart, and same with the Caribbean. You get hubs. I mean, the islands are spread out.
They're different countries, so
It's
they
different
govern
different
govern
countries.
differently. Yeah.
Right. So
Exactly.
how do you
Well,
how
it
do
feels
you
like states in the US also different countries.
so in associate cricket you got Oman, and they're all practicing together all the
Yeah.
time. They live in the same city, all of them basically. And Canada has a couple of hubs, 3 or 4 hubs. So you have other nations that are much smaller, where the best players in the country can come together more often and train together. And here it's a little bit harder. It's getting easier. It's easier than it ever was. But still, how much of that do you think plays into being prepared for this?
I think it is. If we put egos aside and say, listen, I'm going to invest in this USA team properly, pay them properly, make sure that they have proper camps around the country. And now we speak about the Grand Prairie, and issues aside, 2 different parties. But issues aside, if that's the hub of cricket, it's got to be available to everybody.
Yeah.
And if that's the training facility, let that be. If it's Prairie View, let them have the facility and let them train. And in a high performance environment, not 2 days before a tour or playing a
2
couple of
weeks
practice
even.
matches. It needs to be consistent. And you can see these guys have been playing good cricket because they've been playing consistently. And then all of a sudden, before the biggest competition of their lives, they didn't play anything, To have an opportunity to go play a 50-over World Cup in India, that would have been amazing for some of these guys. So it's all about just putting the egos aside and just saying, right, what's the best thing for cricket? And unfortunately, in every part of the world, the guys that make the decisions never ask these type of questions, and that's just me being brutally honest. I come from a country where I've always complained about why are we not speaking about cricket and the best outcome for cricket, because that at the end of the day is the reason why they are sitting there making the decisions because of cricket, and that for me is never spoken about. It's always down to money. It's always down, why is he playing? Why is this one playing?
Sure.
If he's in the team, let him play. And if he's not good enough, we'll find out soon enough,
Right.
And that for me is just, as you can hear, it's a sensitive topic for me. And people need to start, putting their egos aside and just make sure that cricket is the main objective out of everything.
And one thing we could have done, obviously hindsight 2020, but hindsight or not, this is an obvious thing. You're heading into the biggest tournament we've had in God knows how long. The biggest event we've had in forever. And
other than the Super Bowl.
Right. Right. But we have we have a national championship, a 50 overs national championship in the USA. We're supposed to.
We had one in 2021,
we had one,
right?
2021. We had,
And players have to play their own way to get there.
Right, players have to play their own way to get there, and
accommodation, food, everything.
Regardless of even if they had to pay their own way to get there, because we know USA's broke.
Not the country.
Well, the country. Right?
Let's get that out.
We know the
Big
USA
difference.
cricket's broke, but how great would it have been to have a national championship leading into this? How important would that have been to develop the players, especially when
even the minor league, Nate? I mean,
even
minor league,
minor league,
minor league,
we
20
lost
over
out on
50.
minor
anybody
league, and
could
this was a year where minor league could have been played by our USA players, unlike last year.
It's unfortunately, I mean, leave the egos at the door.
Yeah.
And let cricket handle itself. That's just my opinion, and I know in my lifetime it will never happen. And hopefully it will happen in my son's lifetime, and I hope he doesn't play cricket. But I hope it eventually happens to the game of cricket, where people are like, we're going to make money. At the end of the day, we're going to make money. We're going to benefit from this. But put the egos aside, whoever it is. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm on the game of cricket side. That I'm speaking from my personal point of view. It's always an agenda, unfortunately, and that for me is the crux of the matter. So if we can just do that, because there's youth that's coming through that's exceptionally talented.
Sure.
I see them every single day of my life, and I can see how much they are growing.
Oh, yeah.
And
how passionate they are.
Yeah, and I'm not just speaking from North Carolina. I'm
Right.
speaking from, I've been in the DMV, I've been here, I've been in Texas, I've been in the Bay.
Yeah.
And every time you walk into a cricket facility, it is a young boy that's hitting a ball easily through the covers, and you're like, damn, am I back in South Africa, or where am I,
Right.
And then you ask him, how old is he? I'm 11, sir. And it's just like, wow, okay, that means he's still got time to grow to get to under-19 championship, which is at least 5 years, because he'll be 16 by then, you know?
Sure.
So if we groom that and make sure that the youth is looked after, and I mean, at the end of the day, then the game of cricket in the US, it's not going to die, you know, because of the South Asian population, you know, and now that other people are coming in and trying to make the ecosystem better, you know, it's only going to get better.
And we have a comment here that says that we need to play better competition more consistently, but better against better countries. But I'll take playing against Canada, who are pretty much neck and neck with us. I'll take a Audi Cup every year, a best of 3 50-over series against our neighbor, who's very good, and they're a very good team.
Yes, it's around the corner.
And why not bring in other countries too? Some of the islands. You know, why not do this? You know, our 50-over solutions right around us. You know,
whoever said that is spot on. I mean,
spot on. That would be Aaman Patel.
Yeah, I mean, it's spot on. You know.
Why are you laughing? What's the laugh for? What's the laugh for?
I'm laughing because it looks like Aaman put one of his family up on this.
Oh man, we're not all related. We're not all related. Yeah. Come on now, we're not all related.
He's related. Are you related to Aaman Patel from England?
No. That's like
no, but I mean that's a valid point. I mean, if you can have consistent cricket where you're playing official ODIs. I mean, we've got the facilities. I mean, we've got the facilities. We can have official ODIs. You can have a 5-match T20 series that's played over 10 days. That's it. Every second day you're playing a T20 and they go on their merry way.
We play more T20 in this country than probably almost any country does.
I agree with you.
But how many?
My body agrees with you.
How many T20Is do we play? We don't play them. We only play them in pathway events. We don't have bilaterals. There is no T20 Super League. Cricket World Cup League 2. There's no Cricket World Cup League 2 for T20. This is supposed to be the format that grows cricket. So I got a bone to pick with the ICC. Make a league for T20.
That's a surprise, Nate.
Make a league for T20. Yeah, we love Cricket World Cup League 2 in ODI in the one days. But make it T20 and make it the broadcast.
Yeah, I don't think they're there yet, to be honest, because of the T20 leagues around the world. So availability of players become an issue. So
but they're not taking the associate players.
Yeah, but you're talking about having a league of that stature for League 2.
Yeah, League 2.
But you're still going to have guys that play. I mean, Tim David, for example, he's going to be... You know,
he's gone now. He's in Australia.
I'm just saying, for an example, you know, if you take the Dutch players, I mean, Bas de Leijden, I know him, he plays at Durham, but he just left Durham in order to play that. So he's not consistently around. Colin Ackerman, who plays for the Dutch team too. So
they're not consistently around.
They're not consistently around. So that won't work, unfortunately, in the T20 format alone.
Well, I think the problem is it wouldn't work to have 2 leagues because of that.
Yes.
Regardless of what the format is, doubling it, you're cutting into especially places like Netherlands who have to decide between their professional career and their national team. They have to decide between being able to support themselves or play for country. And it's a terrible decision to have to make. And a lot of people take it for granted. A lot of people
it's a tough decision,
don't understand that these are human beings.
Yes, you have to go and find a way to feed your family, right? So like everyone wants to say you pick your country every time. Well, sometimes you got to go and feed your family. That's
the NBA, the players that want to go to the Olympics. The best players don't go to the Olympics. Because they're like, it's my off season. I'm not going to go.
Exactly.
And they don't get paid what they get in the NBA. So what's the point of doing it?
Right. Yeah. So we have a couple other comments here. PJ's going way off course here with his questions. We know that from PJ. Yeah. So he's got one question here for you. Answer that one for him, just to satisfy him.
Who the American version of Mark Vermeulen? So Mark Vermeulen is my first Test wicket, right? And it was not out. It was definitely not. It was missing. It was missing leg stump.
As long as the finger went up, it was alright.
And it was my first ball in Test cricket too, so I made a bit of history.
There you go.
And thanks to Alim Bhai, I called him, legend of an umpire that we all know from Pakistan. And Mark Vermeulen, funny story about him. He burnt down the Zimbabwe, but arson involved. He burnt down Zimbabwe's cricket facility out in Harare. So that was his, because he was a bit gutted that he was left out of the team, and the way that the system was going. So I don't know American sports to that extent. I love American sports because of the pure athleticism of the players. But I don't know who was that angry to burn down something, to be honest.
I think the closest would be Antonio Brown, right? Take the
yeah,
shirt off
yeah,
and leave. Is that the one?
Actually, Antonio Brown is a great description of Mark
Right arm
Vermeulen.
fast bowler.
Yeah. One of the best wide receivers ever. But yeah, Mark Vermeulen, interesting. That's a great question. That was one of the, that was a funny moment, because that test match, he was brought back into the test match, and in the newspapers in Harare in Zimbabwe, it was said that he's back after doing X, Y, and Z, which was pretty entertaining, to be honest. And I got him out first ball. I got him out first ball, which wasn't out. Thankfully, they didn't have DRS at the ground.
That's what he gets.
Well, there you go, and I think that's right about time for us as well. There's one last question, so we'll let PJ get that question in there.
Oh, I read you. Sorry. Rank the following schools based on their sporting prowess.
Is this
Another one. Yeah, that's 4 big boys' schools in Cape Town, South Africa, where I'm from. I went to SAC, so they moved from 3 all the way up to 1.
There you go.
They have the great Percy Montgomery, who's a World Cup winning Springbok. The rugby team.
Okay.
They have the great Peter Kirsten, Nate. If you Google Peter Kirsten and you see the amount of double hundreds he scored in South African first-class cricket, he's half-brother of Gary Kirsten. So he was one of the greatest players that played in the first-class system. Unfortunately, due to apartheid, didn't play a lot of Test cricket for South Africa. But my ranking would be Sachs, and then number 1, Rondebosch, number 97, Bishops 98, and Weinberg, which is our biggest rivals, number 100.
There you go. We got a space for 99 in there.
They actually absolutely rubbish, because they stole the Sachs uniform that we wear. We're not like the American schools that have casual clothing. We wear uniforms. And Weinberg, Charlie van Skalkwyk went to Weinberg. Herschel Gibbs went to Bishops.
I didn't hear Panther Creek in there.
Oh, Jesus, we might be 1001. You know, that might be the ranking.
That's a good question. Good schools that very, very good schools. Very good schools.
Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we appreciate you guys for watching this show. But it's time for everyone to go touch some grass, because that's our time for the evening. Thank you so much for tuning in to Big Innings. For myself, for Dane, Piedt, for Nate Hayes, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next week, 9:30.